Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jorge Gutierrez, and I work at Scania as an industrial PhD student. And together with Maria Hugebrodin and Nuni Salnes, both active researchers at Linköping University, where I am pursuing my PhD degree, we have started the study named The Value Networks of Actors in the Freight Sector, the Case of Electrification of Freight Transport. The research project I'm working on as a PhD is about future sustainable transport and logistics business model. As you know, the eruption of new disruptive technologies such as electromobility, artificial intelligence, and autonomous driving systems enabled by the digitalization revolution are transforming society and industry throughout the world. This development is the foundation for the creation of new ecosystems with many new actors competing but also collaborating with each other, and new value networks with new constellations of companies creating and delivering value with new technology and new capabilities. And at the end, new supply chains and the most important, new ways of doing business, transforming and competing in a pace never seen before. In this context, and since the research project is about future business models, we wanted to study actors in the value network, in the freight sector, and how they perceive the impact of electromobility. So the purpose of this study is to explore similarities and discrepancies between the actor groups' value network perception in relation to the electrification of road freight. As a first step, we carried out a systematic literature review on business model alignment in the supply chain. By supply chain, we mean both the actors in the product supply chain and the transport provision chain. As you can see, the product supply chain is complemented by the transport provision chain, taking into account the increased outsourcing of transport and logistics operations. Having this as a background, the transport provision chain is an important partner for most of the shippers and hence a part of their value network and business model. The conclusions from the literature review were that business models are useful frameworks to concretize abstract concepts, since these concepts can be developed through the application of business models to make them more manageable for practitioners as well as more accessible for researchers. In general, there are no insights on how to accomplish alignment between actors. And in a few cases, the literature touched the subject in a very subtle way. And I believe that the most important to keep in mind is that alignment, adaptation between actors' business model does not necessarily imply similarity, but could be about identifying complementarities. And finally, a missing link in the literature and an area to explore for future research was the connection between the transport provision chain and their suppliers, the automotive industry. In times where new technology is changing the very ground of the automotive industry and thereby all the actors in the supply chain. This was the starting point for this ongoing study I am presenting today, where we focus on the hauliers and their suppliers, the automotive industry. It is an explorative study in a very early phase, aiming to explore the perceived challenges ahead for electromobility. We have had time to conduct semi-structured interviews with a CEO from a logistic company and some representatives from Scania working with electromobility both strategically and commercially. From the hauler's perspective, the challenges with electromobility stem from the technology itself. It is a new technology, it is disruptive, it is a game changer affecting the transport industry and the way it operates today. There is a lot of uncertainty regarding electromobility. How well will it work? The price is known, but what are the hidden costs? Regarding the time frame for adoption, but also for adaptation, Will it happen faster than expected? There are many new actors, electricity providers, charging operators, grid owners, leading to new activities, meaning new business models that need to be understood. There are financial challenges as well. It is an expensive product, much more expensive compared to a combustion engine truck, affecting CapEx directly, and thereby the TCO, the total cost of ownership. So cost neutral solutions are needed in order to achieve TCO parity between a combustion engine truck and an electrical truck. For that, subsidies are needed, but how long will they last? Once again, uncertainty. Investment in infrastructure is a must. Today, it is a catch-22 situation to procure a truck. Would it be possible to charge? Everyone knows that infrastructure will take time, so the decision to try the technology is a balancing act today. Another important question is to buy or to lease. Operational leasing is the preferred solution for the hauliers to avoid risk and the financial exposure. And finally, who will pay for this? Some customers are willing to pay higher fees, but not everyone wants or will do that. And finally, the operational challenges, with the main issue, how to get a functioning system in place, when and where to charge, pointing directly back to the uncertainty regarding the product performance and also the lack of infrastructure. The fact that there are no standards yet for charging equipment could be a potential problem for the fleet. How to fit the new trucks with the current fleet operationally. These trucks need a higher utilization rate to make the investment profitable. Which customers or routes to serve? Where does it make sense to use these trucks? Who is willing to pay? And the need of coordination between different logistics actors to achieve flexibility in order to reach a high utilization rate. And finally, learning by doing. Cooperation projects are key to understand and deploy the new technology and best practice. From the automotive industry perspective, the challenges with electromobility comes from the product. We are in an early development stage for the battery, which means that only narrow market segments can be targeted, mainly city applications and a few units. Even though coming generations will have higher battery capacity and improved range, the current situation is a base for uncertainty for the customers. And the improved price capacity ratio that will result from the battery development and enable the TCO parity between the combustion engine truck and the electrical truck needs to be communicated and to be understood by the market. Infrastructure is imperative and decisive to deploy technology solutions. Once again, the catch-22 situation for the customers needs to be overcome. And it is important to understand that it takes longer time to get the infrastructure in place than developing a new battery generation. Customers need help to understand how to handle the new trucks, when and where to charge. They need to understand how to handle electromobility in a logistics context, help to fit the new trucks in their operations and make it work. And this open the possibility for new offerings. And finally, financial challenges. Once again, the question, sell or lease? Is operational leasing the solution? Well, operational leasing will have a large impact on the balance sheet and entails a high financial risk and exposure for the OEMs. Are there other alternative setups? New business models, subscription on batteries maybe, or as a service solutions, transport as a service, vehicle as a service. These are open questions that are discussed and analyzed within the industry today. And to finalize, some preliminary conclusions from the study. All actors acknowledge the importance of electromobility. It is a new paradigm for the transport provision chain, the automotive industry, and society. Infrastructure needs to be in place. It is imperative. Cooperation projects are key to understand, to learn, and deploy the technology, and above all, to overcome uncertainty. The big question remains how to commercialize and operate electromobility on a large scale. And we cannot forget that actors in the product supply chain require sustainable solutions. In the future, they must be prepared to pay the price. Thank you very much.